Hello everyone, good morning. This is Translation 1 class number 3 with me, Dr. Mahmoud الحرثاني from the Department of English at Al-Aqsa University. Last class we have talked about the definition of translation. We've talked about the topics that we are going to study, the types of translation, literal translation, technical translation, and the differences between them. Today we are going to discuss a new topic, which is the strategies a translator trainee may use in order to sort what problems they come across during the process of translation. Why I start with strategies right away from the beginning of this course is in fact because students need to be that there are problems and there are strategies to sort them out. Once you are armed or prepared with these strategies, you will first be aware that there are problems and then there are strategies ready for you to use in order to resolve certain things in translation process. These strategies are mainly taken from Professor Mona Baker's, in other words, a course book on translation. I might add certain things, but mainly we rely on this seminal book. These strategies are translation by a more general word, which we call superordinate, translation by a more neutral or less expressive word, translation by cultural substitution, translation using a loan word or a loan word plus explanation, translation by paraphrase using a related word, translation by paraphrase using unrelated words, and then we use translation by omission. Of course, we are going to use other translation strategies that include, for example, translation by addition, borrowing, naturalization, Arabization. All these are within the realm of translation strategies. But because we are restricted or we are restricting ourselves to these strategies suggested by Professor Mona Baker, we are going to focus on them. And later on, we are going to elaborate on other strategies meanwhile we are doing our study. Now, we go for, yes. I think this is mingled out, why? Okay. We start with strategy number 1, translation by a more general word, which is superordinate. Look at this. The rich and the creamy cholesterol super is easy to apply and has a pleasant fragrance. You have an English sentence, okay? And we have the word creamy. How do you translate the word creamy? From the face of it, when you read the English sentence, it's easy for you to understand it. It's easy to work according to the instructions or the meanings. But the problem emerges, in fact, when you want to translate it into Arabic. Okay? The rich and the creamy cholesterol super. Look at the Arabic and let us explain. كوليسترول سوبر غني ومكثف في تركيبته التي تمنح مستحضرا يشبه الكريمة. Look at the word creamy is translated into يشبه الكريمة. Could you say something like creamy بالعربي أو زي الكريمة أو there is no other word to go around this problem unless you make what we call in translation, according to Catford theory of class word shift. You have to make a shift in order to make the source text fit within the target language. So يشبه الكريمة is like a more general structure of the word creamy. Okay? It's easy to apply. Apply. What is apply? Apply? Apply, the literal meaning of apply is يطبق. But where is the word here? A general word. You use وضعه على الشعر. Could you say تطبيقه على الشعر? It is awkward. And translation is not only about correct choices. It is about acceptable choices. It is not about it is not about being right sometimes. It's about being acceptable in the target language. Yes, you are right. You could say the literal meaning of apply is يطبق, ينفذ, but when it comes to her, okay, and you can see that there is the word الشعر in Arabic. Do you see any شعر in English? Do you see here? The rich and creamy cholesterol super is easy to apply and has a pleasant fragrance. No شعر. So this is a strategy that you add sometimes certain words in order to produce a coherent text in the target culture. Okay? Now, translation by a more natural or less expressive word. This happens a lot. Yesterday I was reading Song of Myself, which is a poem by the American poet Walt Whitman. And there is this word ballast. Ballast in the dictionary means all the weights like sand, water that are placed in the bottom of the ship in order to make it stable in the sea. Okay? But the translator opted for a neutral word or less expressive word, which is أثقال, instead of translating ballast into all these lines that الأثقال التي توضع في السفينة حتى تحافظ على توازنها في أعماق البحر. He cannot do this. So he opted for أثقال وأغلال. This is like a less neutral word in order to sort out the problem of specificity. This strategy, I mean the neutral and less expressive word strategy, involves watering down the semantic meaning. Watering down is to make it less expressive. Expressive means like balaghi, okay? The source language word or stretch. Footprint, for example, is a word that means, according to Cambridge Dictionary, the mark made by a person's or animal's foot. اللي احنا بنسميه أثر القدم. But when it comes, in a text such as the deal of the century. You know the deal of the century is very famous these days, صفقة القرن, okay? Now, you could see this footprint recurring in the text of the deal of the century. Now, sometimes the translators used the Israeli footprint, for example, would be less if the Palestinian state does the job. They mean the security job, okay? Some writers used حضور. Some translators, used أثر, okay? But nobody used أثر القدم, okay? So look at the English thing, paragraph here. The state of Israel will work diligently to minimize its security footprint in the state of Palestine, according to the principle that the more the state of Palestine does, the less the state of Israel will have to do. ستعمل دولة إسرائيل بشكل جدي. Diligently. You can see how diligently is translated. Okay? بشكل جدي. And there is a little bit you could say about the translation of diligence here. لتقليل أثرها الأمني. أثرها security footprint. Some other translators would use حضورها الأمني في دولة فلسطين وفقا للمبدأ القائل أوكي بأنه كلما قامت دولة فلسطين بعمل المزيد قل ما يتعين على دولة إسرائيل القيام به. Okay? These are the things. We are not going to explain or analyze all these translational decisions taken in the Arabic sentence, but we focus on how footprint is translated. Okay? Look at the word gin here. Gin is a type of alcoholic drink. But when you find the word gin, for example, in an English text, you are not going to translate all these things, gin or al-gin. I've seen certain translators using the word al-jinn, but this can be mistaken for al-jinn wal-afarit in Arabic. This is really serious. Okay? So you would use a less neutral, a less expressive word or a neutral word, which is khamr. Some writers would use al-khamr instead of jinn. Okay? What is raven? Raven is the biggest in the species of crow. Ghurab. Crow is ghurab, raven is ghurab, but raven is bigger than ghurab. It's the biggest type of this species. So when you say raven, you are in fact opting for a more general word. الغراب. You cannot say الغراب الأكبر من بين أصدقائه أو من بين فصيلته وهكذا. Okay? Robin. There is a problem with the translating of all these species because we in Arabic usually opt for general words whenever it comes to names or proper names or birds' names, animals' names, when there is no real equivalent due to specific cultural attitude or specific cultural naming of the object or the animal. Okay? Robin is a type of bird, okay? A specific bird, but usually you opt for the general word. This is the strategy. Translation by cultural substitution. You don't only even use general words, sometimes you substitute. And this is risky, by the way. We'll talk about it in translation too, and in advanced translation, because there is this controversy related to the cultural substitution nowadays in the age of the communication revolution and easy understanding of how other words work in realities. Okay? This strategy involves replacing a culture-specific item or expression with a target language item which does not have the same propositional meaning. Propositional meaning المعنى الفكري يعني. Okay? If there is something that you are unable to digest, then you make it easier for the target readers of your translation by replacing it with a familiar stretch in your language. Okay? The main advantage of using this strategy is that it gives the reader a concept with which she can identify to be familiar with. Okay? Something familiar and appealing. On an individual level, the translator's decision to use this strategy will largely depend on 1. How much license is given to him or her by those who commission the translation. By those who commission the translation, you mean the client, okay? And the purpose of the translation, okay? let us take this. Like father, like son. Literal translation, الولد يشبه أباه. But we make a cultural substitution by saying من شابه أباه فما ظلم. The Senate. We make a cultural substitution and make مجلس الشيوخ to stand for the Senate and the US. In Britain, وزارة الداخلية, Home Office. You make a cultural substitution that stands for the وزارة الداخلية in Arabic. Okay? State Department, وزارة الخارجية الأمريكية. As busy as a bee, زي العروس. Although there is no عروس or in the English statement. You have to be careful with these because people can talk differently. Some people would argue that as busy as a bee cannot be زي العروس in Arabic. We'll come to this later. Now, strategy number 4, translation using a loan word or loan word plus explanation. A loan word or a loan word plus explanation. Let us take this. For maximum effect, cover the hair with a plastic cap or towel. Maximum effect للحصول. You could say من أجل, لأجل. للحصول is fine. Remember, this is translation by addition. للحصول على فعالية مطلقة يغطى الشعر بواسطة. You could say بcap without بواسطة. You can lose بواسطة. Okay? أي قبعة. Cap. Everybody knows cap nowadays. But for people who might not understand the meaning of cap, you would say أي قبعة. قبعة is cap is the loan word you borrow from English. قبعة بلاستيكية تغطي الشعر أو بواسطة منشفة. You can lose بواسطة too. بواسطة منشفة. بواسطة here. Okay? So, cap is the borrowed word, the calc word. We'll come to calc later on. You explain أي قبعة. That happens in translation. I've seen in Muhammad Inani's translation of Orientalism, which is written by Edward Said, when he came to translate Bacchus. Bacchus is the god of wine in Greek mythology. And in the English text, there is this sentence containing Bacchus in Orientalism by Edward Said. When Muhammad Inani wanted to translate Bacchus, he opened a comma and wrote أي إله الخمر and ended it with a comma and continued. He believes in explanation. And this is, again, applicable in our case here. Okay? Number 5, translation by paraphrase using related word. I'm sorry for this. I don't know what happened between the two laptops. This strategy is applied here again. The rich and creamy cholesterol super is easy to apply and has pleasant fragrance. Okay? cholesterol super غني ومكثف في تركيبته التي تمنح مستحضرا يشبه الكريمة. Again, you explained here. Cholesterol super غني. Again, super is a loan word, but because it is part of the name okay, we use it like it is. You cannot say فائق, okay. غني ومكثف في تركيبته التي تمنح مستحضرا يشبه الكريمة. You explain. You use the word and then you explain what you want to, in order to produce a coherent text. Now, number 5 was about translation by paraphrase using related words. مستحضر يشبه الكريمة. But here in number 6, translation by paraphrase using unrelated words. That one was related words, this one unrelated words. In the words of Loanword affidavit dated 2nd of November 1988, the allegations blah blah blah. Okay? Allegations معناها الدعوة. Our focus is on this word, affidavit. Affidavit is a legal word, okay, that is translated by paraphrase using unrelated words. Look at how we translated it in Arabic. إفادة كتابية مشفوعة بيمين. 1, 2, 3, 4 words for one word in English. Affidavit. Okay? Affidavit is the thing you submit to the court in order to say that you didn't do something or where you were not at the place. It's like alibi. Okay? Let us move for strategy number 7. Translation by omission. You omit sometimes certain elements in order to produce an acceptable text in the target. This is very rarely used, by the way. You don't usually opt for omission because, of course, about translation is about conveying a message. You don't need to lose anything from the message. Okay? Look at this. The recently introduced new tradition Axminster range is already creating great interest and will be on display at the exhibition. Okay? أثارت مجموعة نيو تراديشن إكسمنستر درجة عالية من الاهتمام منذ أن قامت الشركة بتقديمها حديثاً، وهي من ضمن أنواع السجاد التي سيتم عرضها في المعرض. Okay? What are the omitted elements here? Okay? But first I want you to focus on how we started a sentence in English, okay, that starts with the noun into a verb in Arabic. The recently introduced new tradition Axminster range is already creating أثارت مجموعة new tradition Axminster درجة عالية من الاهتمام منذ أن قامت الشركة بتقديمها حديثاً، وهي من ضمن أنواع السجاد التي سيتم عرضها بالمعرض. Where is the omitted segment here, or the omitted stretch? Recently, حديثاً. Okay? Range is for which word? مجموعة. Already. Could you see already in Arabic? Sometimes already is omitted, by the way. When you have already done something, okay, I already read the book, or I already have read the book, I have already read the book. The American and British, they have their various ways of expressing the past or the perfect tense. Okay? Creating great interest درجة عالية من الاهتمام. Look at the word درجة. Is word درجة existent in the source text? No, this is translation by addition. In order to fill the gap, in order to produce a coherent, smoothly going text in the target culture. Okay? And will be on display. وهي من ضمن أنواع. Could we say وهي من أنواع السجاد التي سيتم عرضها بالمعرض? You could say this. But why we again add the word like من ضمن in order to bridge, in order to build a well-structured text. Okay? These are words I want you to focus, to contemplate on at home, and to tell me what are the strategies that are used when we translate or render or transfer a word like الضرة into English, بيت العزاء, الحجاب. What strategies do you use when you translate these words? We know that they already have their own fixed cultural substitute, but again, because the concept is not existent in English, there is no concept such ضرة in English. There is no concept such as بيت العزاء. They only have funeral. The same way applies to words like girlfriend. Can you say that الضرة is girlfriend? Does this fit within the two cultures? Can you say that بيت العزاء is funeral? No, you cannot say بيت العزاء funeral. You cannot translate funeral in English into janaza only in Arabic or عزاء. There are these nitty-gritty details or nuances. We always try to learn this rule. Translation is not about differences. Translation is about nuances. What is a nuance? A nuance is slight difference. Nuance is slight difference that people cannot see it easily. It is subtle. You cannot ask somebody what is the translation of ملوخية, for example, or مقلوبة. You cannot say مقلوبة is upside down like people would say in joking settings. Okay? So you need to try to create this hobby or this attention in your mind that you are aware that there are problems in translation that need much focus when you handle them in translation. You cannot translate everything. You translate a lot of things, but you cannot translate everything. This is why al-hijab is totally taken as a whole in English or European languages. They talk about the hijab because you cannot translate al-hijab into a scarf or handkerchief, mandil. Al-hijab is something specific in Arabic culture, like niqab, like burqa. Burqa is very famous word in European languages, by the way. It is written in English. Like mufti, for example. All these religious words usually taken as a whole entity, the concept and the word, the signifier and the signified into the target language. And we usually do this with things that you cannot translate internet, can you? So it's easier to take it as a whole, the concept, the signifier and the signified, instead of translating it with lengthy stretches of language. Sandwich is a very good example. Sandwich is a very good example. When you say, some people would say sandwich. Sandwich is an English word or a European word. You cannot put it in Arabic, كامخ ومكموخ وما بينهما. I don't know what people say. It's just one word. Facts. Okay? Next time we are going to study synonymy. I hope you enjoy the strategies. We will come back to them later on. And apologies for the mixture or the confusion of the system, I'll make sure that in synonymy this will not happen. Thank you.